You are down with.
Yo, Dave.
What up?
Drop the beat.
We like it old school. You know how we do this.
What you listening to?
The brothers from the 818.
91331.
Pacoima, California.
What's up, Dave?
What's up, Caleb?
The real, the raw, the relevant.
No scripts.
We invite you into our conversation. What's going on, people?
Let me just say this.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
You are down with.
The brothers from the 818. What's going on, people? You are back with the brothers from the 818. My name is what? Dave, two times. Here with my man Caleb, kicking it. What's going on with you, Caleb?
Man, I need to get a better nickname, man. I don't like no payload.
Oh,
No payload doesn't do it. Dave two times is wonderful, man. So you know that's going to be on my to-do list for the next couple weeks. I'll figure out a good nickname for me. I love your nickname. Things are good. Work is good. Family is good. I have nothing to complain about. I'm blessed, brother.
I hear that, man. Well, let me give you a quick complaint. What's up with the heat, dude? I mean, you live in the desert, so you've probably been hotter than I am, but it's been ridiculous. And it shows you how spoiled I am. It's probably been like 90, man, and I'm dying over here. I'm like, this is crazy. What's the temperature where you at?
110.
Yeah, see, I shouldn't have said nothing. I just now feel like I feel soft because I'm complaining about 90.
Yeah, you're soft. You're soft.
Yeah, soft. So all good, man. No, it's been a good week. Just loving life, man. It's summer, about to, take the kids to Vegas. Then we hitting the ATL. Gonna see my goddaughter while I'm in town. Hopefully going to the Dirty with you. It's good, man. I'm loving life right now. Things are good. Things are real good. Celebrating my Nigerian culture history. I'm just throwing that out there with everybody. They be like, "What's the big deal?" Be like, "Shut up! You don't know me like I know me. Let me have this."
You don't know me like I just learned about me.
Exactly. Let me celebrate what I found out about myself. So speaking of that, man, we got a pretty interesting show tonight, and I'm looking forward to just jumping right in. You down to do that? You got anything you want to add?
Do it, man.
Let's just do it.
No, I have nothing to add. Let's do it. Let's get started.
All right, cool. So look here. What was it? I know it was a while ago for you. About 6 months ago, Ancestry.com had this crazy sale. I mean, you basically pay shipping, and they would send you the little kit, and you spit in a vial and shake it up and send it in, and you wait about 6 or 8 weeks. And honestly, I'm gonna be real with you. I got a little nervous. I'm like, what if it tells me I got a kid and all of a sudden I just got hit with some child support, right? But I was like, let's see what happens. And so I got it back. And one of the first things I noticed is I just went right to like the DNA and who it says I know. And so my cousin was in there, my cousin Valerie, you know her. Yeah. And so I called her up. I was like, you can't deny me no more. Right? According to DNA, we are related. You my first cousin. She's like, I never deny you. I was like, I don't know, but I'm just letting you know. But the other thing I found out is, like I said a couple minutes ago, I got this strong, the majority of my culture, according to DNA, the majority of my roots, the largest percentage of my roots comes from Nigeria. And I mentioned that to you, and what'd you tell me?
Well, the largest percentage of my culture comes from Nigeria, and I could have something interesting to share with you.
Okay.
Because when I did my DNA a year or 2 years ago, I was nervous the same way as you. My folk was a rolling stone. Back in the day, I was a rolling stone, and I was a little concerned.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And maybe my DNA was out there, and I wasn't aware of it.
Right.
If I had any seeds out there that I was aware of, then I'm taking care of mine.
Right.
But Ancestry or 21 and me, whatever the other ones are out there, one of my cousins found out that he had a child that he was not aware of, and it created a big rift in the family.
Right.
So, anyways, I wanted to share that with you.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that. We're gonna talk about that some more offline, but so honestly, I've been building family trees. I'm up to like 400 people, and then talking to you, and then two other friends of ours, them Brown girls. They did theirs too, and they got some Nigerian history. So we all running around like, what's up with Nigeria? We're looking at Travelocity and
Let's go.
planning trips and trying to do
Let's
the whole
go.
thing. So sharing with everybody else, I was like, Caleb, we got to talk about this. And he said, I got you. I got the perfect vehicle for us to have this conversation. So tonight, the brothers from the 818 bring you two special guests, two friends of ours. Their names are Pius and Ade. They have a special connection to our cultural history. So without further ado, we want to welcome Pius and Ade to the brothers from the 818. How y'all doing?
Good. Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to the brothers from the 818.
Thank you.
Absolutely. How are you, Ade?
Good evening.
All right. So, you've heard me speak, and people know all about us. We believe in ladies first around here. So, Ade, if you will, why don't you introduce yourself to the 818 crew and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Hi. My name is Ade, and about myself, I'm a mom of two beautiful children, a wife, and I work in social services, and originally from Delta State in Nigeria. That's where my father is from, and my mother is from Oyo State in Nigeria. So one person is my father is from the Middle Belt, and my mother is from the southwestern part of Nigeria.
All right.
I've been here for about close to 20 years now.
Okay. All right. So you're what, 22, 23? So you came here as a baby?
As a baby, yeah, about that.
And we're going to get into those belts. We're going to get into those belts that you're talking about and get a better understanding of the lay of the land of Nigeria.
Absolutely. Well, welcome to the 818 crew, my Nigerian sister.
Thank you.
Pius, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Pius. I also work in social services. I'm from Nigeria. In particular, I'm from Kogi State because my dad is from Kogi State. My mother is from a neighboring state, which is Benue State. They are both in the Middle Belt part of Nigeria. I've been here for almost 25 years now in the United States.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to you, my Nigerian brother. We about to have a good old cultural conversation tonight. You ready for this, Caleb?
I am ready. I can't wait to get to know Pius and Ade a little bit better. I've known them for a while, but and we've talked about Nigeria. We talked about my plans to visit, maybe my plans to move back there, since I have such a large percentage of Nigerian heritage in my DNA. So tell us something about where you come from. Like, what can I expect if I went back home with you? Let's start with Pius.
You will see a different culture. You will see the most populous Black country in the universe, run by 100% by Black people. The experience there will be very different from the American experience in so many ways. Nigerians are very welcoming, especially for our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. Whenever they come back home, we make room for them. We treat them like our lost brothers and sisters coming back home.
Love that.
That's what's up. I'm going. I'm telling you right now. Just give me the phone number to call and where to book my ticket. What about you, Ade? What do you think? Tell us something beautiful about back home.
It's pretty much, everything that Pius said, and I just wanted to add that you're not going to be shocked with the heat because it's hot back home, but it's not this crazy hot. It's not this harsh heat that we're experiencing here in California. But it's, you're not going to be shocked by that. And then, secondly, it's just like he said, it's just welcoming, and the atmosphere back home is different. That's my personal experience. Haven't been here and then go back home. I sleep better when I'm home because it's kind of a peaceful atmosphere. It's a more peaceful atmosphere. Let me not say peaceful, a more peaceful atmosphere for me as a person, as my personal experience. It's a worry-free zone. You just sleep better. You glow better. Just me going to spend 2-3 weeks back home. I'm like, who's that in the picture? That's me. So yeah, it's pretty much everything Pius said, and I just wanted to add, the fact that it's hot. So we don't have the winter or anything. We don't have that, but we do have, some cold part of Nigeria. Maybe when we get to that point, we'll talk about that. And Pius's place is closer to, the cold part of Nigeria, so he might be able to talk more about that region.
Okay. So, Pius, you mentioned some words that we don't get to use a lot around here, like diaspora, and you mentioned that the most populous black place in the universe, and I love that because when I think of populous black places, I think like Washington D.C., Detroit. Compton,
South Central,
right? South Central, places that you don't necessarily want to go, especially if you're not from there. But you talk about how beautiful it is. Today you talk about how peaceful it is, and these aren't the stories that we hear in America about Nigeria, right? If you ask your typical American, especially your typical American in school, tell us about Nigeria, they're just going to kind of shrug their shoulders and be like, Martin Luther King? I mean, I don't know. They have no clue because it's just not something that's taught. So growing up in Nigeria, what were you taught about life in America? And if you were taught anything, and what were your impressions? And were those impressions matched when you got here? Or was it a completely different world? I know that's a lot, but just kind of think about that and answer it however you feel comfortable. We'll start with the day this time.
Okay. For me, it wasn't really so much, what I was told back home, because, growing up in Nigeria, I would say, maybe elementary and secondary school days, not so much about, learning about America. But as soon as I went to the university to study international law and diplomacy, we started to talk about things that are happening outside the four walls of Nigeria. Talking about things that happen in the international arena and the countries and their relationship with each other, how they interrelate with each other. So then we started to learn about, I started to learn about the Western world, so to speak, how it's called back home, the Western world, and how America is the policeman of the world. They're just in everybody's business. Because don't forget, America never came to Nigeria to colonize. It was Britain, it was Great Britain that came.
Right.
To get to actually colonize Nigeria. So this is now it's America. Just the fact that we learned, in international relations, we learned to use the word that America is the policeman of the world, meaning that of course they're in everybody's business. When you talk about the United Nations, you say that's all America. It's almost like whatever America says is what the United Nations will come up with. And so talking about the school system, it's really great. It's better than this. We heard all of that too. The schooling is better in America. This is better in America. Until I got here, and I was like, okay. First and foremost, schooling is not better here in America because we were taught the British system, and till today, the British system is still higher than. The standard, the Great Britain standard is still higher than that of America. And I had a personal experience with that because converting my bachelor's over here through World Educational Services, my result actually looks better here than it did back home. It looked a lot better. I was like, oh, thank you for the conversion. Just for you to know how the British standard is higher than that of America. And the fact that, all the streets are painted in gold. And I was like, coming to New York, I didn't see any gold streets or anything. In fact, I was like, okay, so there's trash in America too. Okay, so there's dumpsters, there are, homeless people too. Oh, I thought America fed, because America always comes to the rescue of anybody that is in need all over the world. So I'm like, okay, this level of homelessness. And then, of course, when I got a job with social services. And then there's this particular day where we have to go out and count the homeless people in this winter, in this blizzard, just to count the homeless people and bring them to shelter because it's extremely cold outside. So then I was amazed at the amount of homeless people that we got from off the street. I was like, wow, this is America. So a lot of things, kind of shocked me. And I guess, what really took me back is Nigeria is being considered, I think right now they're saying underdeveloped, because at some point it was a developing nation. That was kind of like, okay, they're pushing us forward. And now I think they use the word underdeveloped now, because the Western world believes, okay, Nigeria is, where they think it is. Just like you said, a lot of people haven't had the opportunity to leave the four walls of America and go see what's happening outside. They just go by whatever they've been told in the past. I say the past because the internet is there right now. Nobody has any excuse to make any ignorant statement about Africa or anywhere in the world. There is no excuse anymore. All you need to do is go on Google, and then you will be educated, at least to the point where you can actually, have an educated conversation with anybody, as opposed to, the kind of things I experienced when I came in, like, is it true that you guys have lions as pets? And it's like, okay.
No,
And I feed into it most of the time. I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely. I had a personal lion. My brother had a personal lion. My sister, we all, I feed into it, the cheetah, things like that. But back to the education that I was talking about, the fact that, children have to take loans to go to school here in almighty America, that was a big slap for me. Because even back home, the children of the poorest person can go to school and get a good education without having to pay for it. There's free education back home.
Wow.
And that is still a problem. That is still something that I struggle with, especially now that my child is about to go into the university. I struggle with it a lot. Like, what? And then it's not like, something that you just, open your bank account and just say, okay, yeah, go, So yeah, things like that. I was shocked about a lot of things. Well, like I said, those were the specific things.
Wow.
That is something that we will talk about. And, I've had a lot of conversation with Pius about the school systems in Nigeria. And what you just shared today really speaks to the influence of Hollywood on the impressions of America across the globe. America is painted in a way that is glorified and glamorous, but when you come into the streets of New York or Los Angeles, Chicago, the big cities, there's a different reality. So Pius, I want to hear you just kind of add anything that you will to what Ade shared about the school systems, and then we'll talk a little bit about culture after that.
Okay, I don't personally have much experience with the public school system in Nigeria. I went through the private school system from elementary through college in Nigeria. So my experience is uniquely different from anyone who went to public school in Nigeria.
And I love the contrast that you're going to bring us. So go ahead, keep sharing that.
So I went to primary school in Lagos, just the same place that Ade went to primary school. I went to Ladilak Institute, Apapa, and it was a very good experience. We had very good teachers. We had the buses come to pick us up, take us to school. There was school lunch, and the textbooks are provided. My job was just to go to school and come back and do my work. Then I went to high school. I went to a very special high school that it's a boarding school. In America, boarding schools are looked down on. But in Nigeria, if your parents can afford it, the place to go is a boarding school. So I went to a private boarding school. In my days, the student population was less than 100 in that school. And the philosophy of the school is that each student trains himself. So they just have very few rules to follow, and the rest is up to you. You go to class, do your own stuff. If I needed any book, I just walk to the principal and say, I need this book. If the school doesn't have it, he puts me in his car, we go to the shop and we go buy it. Wow. and stuff like that. Students run the kitchen. Or we go to the market, buy the food, bring it to the cooks, give them from the store what they need to cook. We pay the contractors. We run everything about the school is run and managed by the students. And we report back to the principal, whatever we do for the day. Don't know what else to say, but that was it. At some point in my school, we didn't even have examinations. Examinations were not considered an important part of our education because it was self-formation. You learn what you choose to learn. The only exams that were important were the West African exams that we need to take to graduate from school. Then at the end of my 5 years of high school, I then went to college, also again a small college, private setting, and graduated from there. It was upon my graduation from college that then I went to public school for 6 months. And my experience of the public school system for graduate studies was a bit a shock for me because that was my first encounter with public school. It was considered one of the best public schools in Nigeria, but because I didn't have the background, it didn't look like the best for me until I got here to the US. And then I could compare the academic standard in that school to the standard here in America. And then I saw why it is considered one of the best schools in Nigeria.
Wow. I love that we're seeing two drastic different experiences, but the commonality is then you get here and realize, wow, this is it, right? This is what American education looks like. Pius, you mentioned culture, so did you, Ade. Let me tell you about Black culture in the United States. You got to know the Civil Rights Movement. You got to know about slavery and Jim Crow and things along those lines. And if you're fortunate and have an elder or have a love for reading or understanding, you go and learn a little bit about African history. But African history is regional, and unless you're learning from someone from that region, it's basically someone else's understanding telling you a little bit about something else. So I say all that to say we really don't have a culture here. But you grew up in a Nigerian culture, yet you're here raising a family in an American culture. How do you ensure, if you do, how do you ensure the imprint of your culture in the lives of those that are with you now? Either one of you can chime
in. If I could say, before I came to the US, I actually have read a lot about the American culture, about what happens in America, the issues in America, and stuff like that. I was a very passionate student of history. So I've read so much about the US before I came here. And then my oldest daughter some years ago, I traveled to Nigeria with her. That's the best way to tell the story. And when she got to Nigeria, she was a different child, completely different child. She can't wait to wake up in the morning to go outside and run around with her friends, and she had hundreds of friends within minutes back home. And when it was time for us to come back here, she refused to enter the plane. She said she would not go back to the United States. And it was a big drama. And she's like, if I have to go, all my family have to come with me, and all my friends have to come with me. And I literally had to force her into the plane with the promise that we'll come back again soon, for her to come back here. And my conclusion is that she genuinely experienced what it means to be a child in Nigeria, an experience that children don't have here in the United States. She also genuinely experienced what it means to be truly free, an experience that is not available to anyone in the United States.
For our viewers, what do you mean when you say truly free? What was she experiencing? What would my child experience if they took a trip to Nigeria? What were you trying to express when you say free?
She could walk out of the door from the house, go outside, gather all her friends, and they run around the neighborhood without adult supervision or control. His kids being kids. And every adult in the neighborhood is looking out for them. They're not talking to them, but they keep an eye out for them. And they are genuinely free to be kids. They only come back home when they are hungry. They need to drink water, they run back home. They need food, they run back home. And, they could go to any home. She doesn't have to come back to my mother's house to eat. Any of her friends, they can go to any of the friends' house, and that family will give them whatever they want.
Okay, now I have a better appreciation for that, because on where I live, my children, they'll go out into the front yard.
And you have to be outside
the front yard, and that's it. They'll go into the backyard, which is fenced in, and I as a parent, I could kind of breathe easy because I know that they're enclosed. But what you're sharing is a much greater freedom as a child that I grew up with in my neighborhood in Pacoima. So I appreciate you providing some additional context to what it meant to be free. Ade, what do you have to share?
Yeah, pretty much the same, background growing up, you're free, you run around. The children, my children, when I took them to Nigeria, my daughter was 7 and my son was 4 when I took them, that my daughter remembers when she was 7. But before then she had gone, quite, a few times before then. But the one that she really remembers was when she was 7. And, just the free, I guess for them, it was just the overwhelming pampering from my cousins, from my nieces. They almost started picking her up at 7, like, oh, come, And I'm like, okay, it's because we're visiting. If we were living here, I don't know of anybody that would come in every day and just, hug up on you and all of that. They love the over pampering that my nieces and my nephews and my cousins were doing. And then the freedom that Pius talked about too, they can run around, especially we grew up with, houses that had very big yards. There was nothing like, oh, because you couldn't afford it. It was just, and that's another thing in Nigeria. If you have a house, to build a house, it's pretty much, something that everybody, achieves back home. Whether you're a middle class person or, you're just struggling, you build your house as you have the money. If you have money for 100 blocks today, that's what you put into your building. And before you know it, it's something that, you just, before you know it, you completed your building. So people don't have to worry about mortgages, about, paying light bills and all of that. That's a whole different thing entirely. But, I guess the fact that all of that is out of the way, that's where you get this stress-free atmosphere. And then, like you said, we all had a big yard to run around the whole neighborhood. I guess the difference is all these languages, the phrase that we use here frivolously in the Western world, that it takes a village to raise a child. It doesn't happen here. that happens back home. I believe that phrase originated from Africa, because it still takes a village to raise a child. What do I mean by that? Everybody's on the same page. Everybody's on the same page. There is, you run out of the house, maybe because your parents said something. Anywhere you go and you tell the story, they tell you, go back home, your parents are right. Go back home, your father is right, your mother is right. You know, they can even discipline you, and you dare not get home to complain and say, so and so woman down the road, or so and so man down the road just hit me or did something and all of that, or disciplined me. No, you can't. Everybody is on the same page back home. There's no teacher telling you, if your parents do this, you could call the cops. There's nobody telling you, oh, did they slap you? Did he do? Nobody's asking all those crazy questions, you know, that we are experiencing now. I'm not trying to dismiss the fact that some people don't, you know, hurt their children. That's not what I'm talking about. Let's forget, you know, the extreme crazy people who deliberately hurt their children. I'm talking about discipline now. There's two different things: abusing your children and disciplining your children. I'm talking about discipline now. So everybody's on the same page. It takes a whole village. Just like Pius said, his child didn't have to come home to eat lunch or whatever, or have water. There's always somewhere to just, the nearest place to wherever you're playing, just enter and they will give you water. They'll give you food. You know, they don't have to even know your parents. So that phrase of it takes a whole village to raise a child, that originated from Africa, because up until today, it still takes a village to raise a child. You don't go on the corner and see a child and turn your face and say, oh, if I say something, this child is going to insult me. No, you see a child with a school uniform on, and they're out in the evening, maybe standing in the corner with a boy. You tell them, you need to go home right now. That child will have no choice but to start running home. You know, and God help you if that person follows you home to go and tell your parents, this is what I saw in the corner.
Right.
So, you know, things like that, it can't happen here, because God help you if the child of the father doesn't go up and bring his gun and gun you down and say, what do you mean? Why are you terrorizing my daughter? Why are you harassing my child? You know, things like that. Nobody even wants to take that risk anymore. You know, you don't take that risk. And there were so many things I had to, you know, I don't know if Pius did a lot of that. I had to school myself when I got to this country, because so many things would have gotten me in trouble. So many things. But I had to tell myself, that's not the way things are done here. If you do it like this, you're going to get in trouble. A lot of schooling that I did, just to be able to push back and say, no, that's not how it's done here. You're not home. You're here. You're not in Nigeria. You're home. You're here now. You're not in Nigeria. So many things. So many things. So yes, that's what I wanted to say about the freedom that Pius was talking about.
Let me add to the freedom piece, Caleb. I know you got a question you want to hit him with, and I loved your explanation that there's a freedom in being about your neighborhood. I know that freedom because I grew up in the 70s in a small town where you could leave the house like bright early in the morning. You had to be home before the streetlights came on. Your parents knew everybody in your circle where you were going to go, and they didn't worry about, did you eat? Where are you going to cut up or whatever? Because as you said, Ade, there's the community, the village that's looking after you. I know a little something about that. But in raising my children, it took me a while before they could go past the driveway. My 16-year-old called me today to ask me if he could ride the scooter outside the gate, right? Because we live in a gated community. And so, and those are things I appreciate, because they don't have that freedom, right? Because wherever my children go, I want them to be free to explore the area, but they always got to be mindful of where they go, what they do, and who's watching them. Always mindful of who's going to look at them to report them doing something just because of the way they look. And so when I heard you say she had never experienced freedom, and children today, black children today, children with dark skins today, don't have that freedom in this country, that's what I hear. Because we're always looking over our shoulder wondering what's going to happen next. What are we going to be accused of? What are we going to be pulled to the side for? When we're walking with friends that don't look like us, what example are we going to be made of with the police, whereas everyone else is going to get a pass? That's what I heard. And that's a joy I would love for my children to see. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's something that I felt like I experienced a little bit in my neighborhood. But everyone on my block, everyone on DeGarmo, it was that village. Everyone grew up together, and we knew our neighbors. We knew their phone numbers. We would walk down and have breakfast with them and hang out with them and celebrate with them. And it was a different experience, certainly, than what my children are experiencing. You know, I think the question that David was asking early on is how do you share your cultural experience that you had and growing up in Nigeria with your children growing up in America? Is that just impossible for you to do?
Not really. Not really. I tell my children a lot of stories, and I tell them their history. You know, their history, where we came from, their ancestors, stuff like that. I cook Nigerian food at home. They enjoy it. Sometimes they look like tonight. You know, mommy had a different meal, and my youngest went to the fridge and brought Nigerian food out. She requested for it as she wanted to eat, and I had to get up and make it for her. So those they are familiar with. And I tried, like my oldest, go to school now, and she's studying social studies. And sometimes she comes to me and says, Daddy, this is what the teacher was saying in the class about Africa is not correct, because when I went to Africa, that is not what happened. I have to explain to her the difference between what is understood in the Western world here in America and the reality of what Africa looks like. But, you know, so the fact that I plan to take them home constantly, as much as I can afford to do so that they can be immersed in both worlds. They can understand the the Nigerian culture and also the American culture. And then they can pick and choose which one they want to practice.
Right, because I think that they're in conflict with each other. And by the way, Ade, I've had some of Pius fufu, and I can't say the same that I've tasted anything that came out of your kitchen, but Pius has shared me.
Yes, you have.
Well, I haven't, so you know.
David, I got you. Okay, I got you.
Thank you.
Just recently, we celebrated the 4th of July, America's independence, and as you both know, we now are blessed to have a day of celebration for Juneteenth.
Yes.
And there's a number of holidays that fall on our calendar. I could look at my calendar and I see one holiday after another. Because I'm an accounting employee, I celebrate that, right? And because it's an opportunity for me to have a day off. And but sometimes things are lost in those celebrations. Sometimes people are just simply enjoying the day off and not reflecting on the meaning behind those holidays. Are you celebrating, or what holidays are celebrated in Nigeria? What type of holidays would you say are important days for Nigerians?
We have thousands of holidays. I said thousands, but then we have the ones that are officially recognized by the government. October 1st is our Independence Day, independence from Britain. And some people celebrate it with joy. Some of us don't, because the involvement of Britain in the creation of that entity called Nigeria is not something that we are happy with. Then you have the religious holidays like Christmas, which is a national holiday. You have I think 1 or 2 days a year are Islamic holidays that are national holidays. But then as you move from community to community, they also have their individual holidays that they celebrate. For instance, the Igbos will have the harvest holiday called New Yam Festival. And normally this festival is around August, is a big deal, but that is only in the states where Igbo people originate from. And then, like my people, among us, the Domas and Igalas, we have what we call a Jaliku, which is the day we give thanks to our ancestors. It's a holiday for us, but it's not a government-recognized holiday. So we have those mini holidays that are going from community to community that can happen anytime. And then you have the national holidays that everybody recognizes.
I love how rooted everything is. Everything is about family. Everything is about ancestry. Everything is about your family tree and your lineage. And I love that, because in the United States, that is lost for the most part.
I've been to South Africa twice, and I love South Africa. The first time I went, I picked out some property. I was like, next time I come, I'm buying that. I didn't, but I went again, and I didn't take my children either time. They said, Dad, next time you go, you have to take us, and I will. But it's one of those places where, as you open, it's very welcoming. They see me as a lost son of the country, and probably not anymore, because I'm gonna go over there with my Nigerian shirt on, so they're gonna be like, nah, you got to take that off, right? But I look at, because again, I was ignorant before I went, but when I went to South Africa, some called it the Cleveland of Africa. It was more of an urban city than a cultural diaspora, so to speak. But I disagree, because there were some cities in South Africa, absolutely, and tall buildings and sprawling areas. But there was some places that we got to what they called over Devil's Teeth, right? Mm-hmm. And that's because the road was so bad, and different areas you went, and villages and places that were far apart. Would you say it's similar in Nigeria, or is more towards one or the other? How would you describe Nigeria as compared to a country like South Africa?
South Africa is a peculiar place. The destruction, the cultural genocide committed by Europeans against South Africans has changed the dynamics of the country. So it's an African country, but is it really reflective of African experience?
Right.
I think it is not.
Okay.
Okay. There are aspects of South Africa that struggles to keep the culture alive. Like if you go to places like KwaZulu-Natal, the Zulus still insist on practicing their culture to the extent that they can, but not fully, because the oppression that went on for hundreds of years has completely changed everything in that part of the world.
Right.
So South Africa is a sad story. It's completely a sad story, and it's promoted in America and in the West as an exemplary African country. The way I look at it is the white man trying to say, if I control you, this is what I want you to look like.
Wow.
That's so they sell it as, we control them. See, we will not transform them to look like us, turn them into, they don't look like white, they just turn them into different people, turn them from being genuinely Africans to be a hybrid of Africans, and that is sad. That is terribly, terribly sad, But when you go to Nigeria, there are places in Nigeria that are more developed than Beverly Hills of California, than Westwood, that are much better than Beverly Hills, Westwood, call it Manhattan, whatever you call it. There are places that are more, like if you go to Eko City in Nigeria, or Banana Republic in Lagos, there is no city here that is close to those cities. Nothing close to it. So it's a fast developing culture and country. But my hope and prayer is that hopefully, regardless of the material development, that we still retain our African authenticity in all that. something that South Africa lost a long time ago. And it's sad. It's very sad.
Well, I'm gonna correct you, and I'm sorry to do this, but you said when you go to Nigeria. No, when we go to Nigeria.
Okay.
Next time you go, I'm going. I'm just letting you know. So it's easier for me to travel in the summer. Just let me let you know that. But Ade, did you want to chime in on any of that about South Africa?
Yes, I have something to say because I think, see, part of the problem too with I would say, let me talk about America, and I'm not going to talk about the other Western world, like talk about anywhere in Europe or, what's it called? Let me talk about America specifically now, because I'll tell you that just like the same way that you did your ancestry.com and, it came back with that percentage, I've had a lot of people who kind of rejected it that, oh, no, they just want to be from South Africa. You see, that's still part of the slave mentality. I would tell you that because just like Pius rightly explained, South Africa, nobody was taken away from the South African shore. The white men came to South Africa and they stayed there and they oppressed the people there, and they just stayed there and moved the people to, wherever they moved them to, up the hill and took over the city. They stayed there. The purpose was not to ship anybody out of that region. But the West Africa, there's a West African coast where you have the shore where they packed their ship. That's why I said most slaves were shipped out of West Africa. So people who still want to deceive themselves and tell themselves lies, they will tell you, oh, they trace their ancestry back to South Africa. And I'm not saying that there is zero possibility for that. But I am talking about the ones that actually, were, traced back to West Africa, but because they said, oh, it's not as developed as South Africa. I just want to be a South African. That's still part of the slave mentality. Like Pius said, there are white people who will tell you I'm originally from South Africa, and that's where they're originally from. But there is no white person that will tell you I'm originally from Nigeria. That's a lie. That is a lie. Where is your origin? You see what I'm saying? Because this happened thousands of years ago. So there are South Africans who they are like tracing back to about 3 or 4 generations. Now that's where they're from. So the white man in South Africa can tell you that's where I'm originally from. And that's the truth. It's an African country, but that's where they're from. But no white person will tell you I'm originally from Nigeria. Where are we tracing that back to? I want to know where the origin of that original origin is from. You see what I'm saying? So that's part of, that's still part of the slave mentality. But like Pius said, I just hope and pray that people just wake up to reality and they read more books, they educate themselves on what's going on and what happened. You're not originally from South Africa. Because nobody was. That was not the plan for the South African region when the white man came there. They were there to oppress and keep the people oppressed in their own land. I would even say it was worse than shipping people out, but I'm not going to measure which one is better or which one, but they oppressed them in their own land and sat there for so many, many years. And nobody's going to chase the white people out of South Africa. You just have your area, we have our area. It is still what it is now. They're talking about it's mixed, it's not, that's a lie. It's still what it is.
Is it fair? Is it fair to say that neither you or Pius have ever done an ancestry.com, a 23andMe? Have either of you, or do you know of any Nigerians that would even invest the money, even if you get it at 50% off like David did?
Look, Caleb, I can show you. When we go to Nigeria, I'm going to show you where my forefathers are resting. I know where their grave sites are. They never left. We were just fortunate that they did not leave. So they did not leave. I know where they're resting. Their resting place from generations to generation. I know where they are. But I did tell my daughter that I was going to do it.
Pius, you said you can trace your ancestors back to the 9th century AD. Ade, you said you could take you to where your ancestors are buried. Caleb and I will be in New Orleans in 3 weeks, and we'll be 90 miles away from the birthplace of my grandfather. And and that's just my mom's dad. Just being in that place means something to me. Imagine to take that back 3 or 4 more generations. That's a joy that we'll never know, right? But we're gonna get a little closer because the next trip to I'm telling you, whichever one of you go first, just let somebody know, and we'll coordinate, and we will go with you. Well,
thank you for that.
Thank you guys both for joining us. All 3 of my 2 African brothers and African sister.
There you go.
I love that. this is not the only time we are going to talk. We going to break some bread or something. A day you said you got me, so, and there's no got me like inviting me to your table and letting me enjoy your preparation. So I would love to just sit at your feet, both of you, and learn more. And I love culture. I love history when it's real. Unfortunately, I grew up with his story and his story, not the truth. And as I've gotten older, I want to learn more, really about the truth about American culture, which it's a hard pill to swallow, but I do want to know it. But I also want to know what's been hidden from me, and what's been hidden is the beauty of a country named Africa. Folks, you've been kicking it with Dave and Caleb and our special guest, Pius and Ade, and just learning about Nigerian culture, our culture, maybe even yours. And so take up all of you have access to the internet. If you didn't, you wouldn't be watching this. And just do a quick search and see what you find. I know that's what I'm going to do. Pius mentioned the books that we want to look up. We'll leave some information for that in the text of the podcast. And until we meet again, you can catch us here on YouTube. You're watching that now, or on Facebook. We're streaming on all streaming channels, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Music. Everywhere, if it's streaming, we are right there. Y'all done kicked it with the brothers from the 818. Y'all be safe. Peace out.
Peace.
You are down with
The brothers from the